eventually a CIO or a CTO is important once you get to that like 15, 20 million range. I would say those are like the most important like core, you know? But then as you grow, I think a CSO, a chief strategy officer, is also really, really important.
Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed with your guy, Beez, where we talk about everything related to entrepreneurship, but always with a twist of business acquisitions, right? And today, we're going to talk about this is a slightly different topic because normally we go into different strategies within entrepreneurship, this business model and such. But a lot of times people are asking me, well, how do you also, once you identify which business model you get into, once you identify which business or industry that you're going to acquire as well, how do you help it to grow? What are some of the things that you need inside of your business to help to scale and to take it to that next level? And today's topic, I think, is perfect to answer that question. So today, by none other than the great one herself, Dr. Alexa. Okay, now let me make sure I say the last name properly.
Agostino.
Agostino, because I used to say D'Agostino. I don't
D'Agostino. Some people say Dag, whatever.
Yeah.
Just call me Doc. It's cool.
Let's go, Doc. What's good? Alexa, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome. It's a beautiful day here and in Florida, and I'm just excited to be here. I've met a lot of people in my career, and you are one of my favorite people I've met in the last couple of years. So I'm just excited to be here. The
feeling is more than mutual. You know, we have stuff that we're going to talk about specifically as people can see the title, you know, why your business needs a CRO. But you and I have so much other stuff that we could talk about, right?
So many things. We'll
go way past the time that we have allotted for this episode, but man, you are an amazing person. You know, when I met you, it was kind of last minute how we first met. It was like, oh, you have an event. Somebody told me, oh, this person, I know she has an event coming. You know, I think you'd be a great fit. And then you interviewed me, and it was just like really last minute. And then all of a sudden we just hit it off. And then I've been at more than one of your events, and I hope to keep coming to them even when times are challenging and such. But man, you've just built an amazing community, done amazing things. You are definitely one of my favorite people that I've met in the.
You want to know what the key there was? You said yes, and it opened up doors for a lot of people, not just you, but me and everybody else that met you, right? And just because you said yes to one little thing, it changed a lot of things.
That's a powerful statement that you just made, right? Because a lot of times people they get in the way of their own success. Now, mind you, I'm also at that age where it's like somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go to this event?" And I'm like, I don't feel like it. But then I'm like, no, if I don't go, I'm gonna regret it. And then just because I say yes and then go, it's like, oh man, I'm so happy. That happened with you too. Because it was so last minute, and I was like, oh, I don't want to travel right now. I just came back. And then I said yes, and it opened up so many doors to some other amazing people that I've met because of you as well, and impacted lives. One guy we haven't even introduced you fully yet, because you know what I mean? We have so much to talk about.
I don't need an introduction.
but the last thing I'll say with that is I remember there was like 3 people from the first event that you had that I spoke at. And they hit me up shortly after and was like, after your event, they were already entrepreneurs. They already had their businesses. They were already doing well. But they said after they met me at the event, they immediately realized that they needed to hire a CEO instead of being the CEO themselves. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, awesome. I'm glad that message resonated with you. So I love seeing the impact that we can have, even on people who are super successful as well, right? So, you know, it's an amazing when everybody's coming together and it's a high quality room. That's thanks to you.
Yeah. And it's like you talk about why you shouldn't be the CEO, and I'm talking about why you need a CRO instead of a CMO. So there you go. Perfect compliment. We're hiring the 2 most important people in a business.
Exactly. Okay. So all right, now let's take a step back. Tell the people a little bit more about who you are and how you got to where you are today. All right, guys, before we get into the full episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for supporting this channel. This channel means so much to me. You all mean so much to me because this information is the type of things that I wish that I knew when I was like 17 years old, right? We're talking about wealth creation strategies, not plays. Never talking about, hey, we could run this quick play to make some quick money. This is all about sustainable strategies that won't go anywhere. Whatever else you may be doing, this information will supplement it and help you take it to a whole nother level. So what I would love to ask each and every one of you is if you could like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, do all of that for me. It supports the channel, it helps us to grow, helps us to get this information out to more people so that we could change more lives. So thank you again for supporting. Make sure that whatever you see in here, whatever you learn in here, that you go and execute on it. And then drop a comment and let me know how it went out for you. Hopefully I'll even see you in the BBI where I teach how to acquire businesses and everything about entrepreneurship. Let's go. Tell the people a little bit more about who you are and how you got to where you are today.
Oh man, well that's a loaded question, but I'll give you the 1-minute version. Parents are from Cuba, so when they came to America, couldn't speak English, had no choice but to become entrepreneurs. A lot of blue collar stuff. So I grew up with everybody in my family, literally everybody is entrepreneurs. And so I kind of didn't know anything other than that I was going to be an entrepreneur. Started my first business at 17 and quickly realized there are 3 really important things that I learned from my parents. But you need skills, you need to work hard, and you need people. And first 2 was all me. And the third one, I think I got a little lucky. I got myself in the right rooms and the right people wanted to mentor me and take me on. And they hired me to help them with their marketing. At that time, I was doing like development and started to just do marketing and, design and social. That was right when social in like 2007, right when Facebook was just starting to kind of kick off. And, I ended up getting equity in companies and growing companies. And by 24, I had 4 exits. By 30, I had 6. And I just sometime in between, I got a PhD to teach. And I just love what I do. I love growing and scaling and exiting companies. It's really my passion. But I love solving problems. And I'm at the point now, I'm 34. And when I turned 30, I promised myself that moving forward, my next journey was going to be really passion driven. And, a lot of people say you don't need passion, to run a business. And in fact, a lot of people say you shouldn't have passion. And I agree to that. But what I'll say is in my 20s, am I allowed to curse on here? I made a shit ton of money and I was miserable, and it wasn't until 2019, December 24th, Christmas Eve, I'm sitting at my sister's house and my dad looks at me. He's like, why are you miserable? Like, what's going on there? Like, you're 29, like you make a lot of money. Like, what's going on in your head? And I just said, I don't know, Dad, I'm not happy. And this changed my life. He said, because you're looking at it wrong. And I said, how? He goes, you're looking at what you're doing and you're miserable because what you're doing. But what is wrong isn't what you were doing. You love what you were doing. You don't love why you were doing it. And that was the moment when I said, wow, you're right. And I changed the model. And now everything I do has passion and it's completely changed everything about it, of what I do, and so that's who I am.
I love that. So tell me this, I got 2 major questions just from that introduction, right? One is, do you ever watch the TED Talk by Simon Sinek?
Of course.
Of course, right? So when you're talking about that, why you're doing it, understanding the power of why, because most businesses, most people focus on the what. Right, I'm going to start this business because I see other people doing it. That's not the best approach. I'm not saying it can't work, but it's not the best approach. When you start from and lead from why, you're going to make certain decisions that may be different from someone else that's focusing on the what, right? So I always say from my side, I want time freedom. I want time wealth. That's what people, most people are talking about financial freedom and financial wealth. And that's cool and all, but ultimately I know my goal is the time. So I'm going to, instead of making decisions that might earn me more money, I'm going to make decisions that's going to earn me money in order to give me back more time. So it may be less money than this path, but it's going to give me ultimately what I want in order to help me to be happy as well. Right.
But there's key there, right? A lot of people think the why or the passion has to be the actual what they're doing. But see, your why wasn't what you were doing, it was why you were doing it, right? And so I think that's important. So I got into it with this guy on TikTok because he was like, you can't be passionate if you want to create a company that makes a lot of money. You can't be passionate about what you're doing. And he said, for example, the guy who's a billionaire in Japan, it might have been China, Japan or China, whatever, who has $1 billion cement company. You think he's passionate about cement. So then I went on like a rabbit hole. I'm like, all right, I'm going to like go and find this dude and do research on him because there's got to be some sort of why here, right? And it turns out the why is his family. Like his whole family's involved. It's a family business. And like, that's his why. The why doesn't have to be because he's passionate about cement. Who cares what they're doing? It's the why. They're all together doing it. And that's the point, you know? So I think that's a key thing that people miss. They think, oh, I got to be passionate about marketing, which I am, luckily, but I'm not really passionate about marketing. I'm passionate about growing businesses, and marketing just happens to be my avenue to get there.
I love it. I love it. And the second thing that you mentioned in your introduction is that you came from a family of entrepreneurs, right? I think that's so awesome. So friggin' awesome, because I know you've heard me state that one of the mindset shifts that people have to make, especially to get into what I do with mergers and acquisitions, is that you first have to break the chains and constraints that's been put upon you by your family, your friends, your neighborhood, your society, your country, whatever it may be. Because we're taught certain things. You know, me being from Jamaica, I was taught things like credit is bad. Debt is bad. You got to have multiple jobs in order to be successful. That's the path of working harder. And I was like, wait, but hold up. My uncle had like 5 jobs at the same time and he was still living check to check. How could that be the path, right? So breaking those constraints that may be put upon you is a first step. But you had it a little bit better because the constraints that were put upon you was, hey, it's better for you to, you know, be an entrepreneur than to work 9 to 5 for someone else and blah, blah, blah. So you already had some insight into that realm. You had some exposure to it. And would you say that helped? I mean, you kind of said it already, but would you say that? So
yes and no. It's actually really interesting. So what helped me was growing up seeing it, right? And seeing what it takes. Like my father has died a couple of years ago, but if you met my father, he was the hardest worker in the world. And then you meet my mother, and she too was just such a hard worker. So I grew up seeing it so naturally, like, and they didn't baby me. Like there's a lot of families, and we were middle class. We were not, maybe a little middle upper class, but we were not upper class, like very, very middle class. But like we did good. Like we weren't struggling. And so my parents made me work. Like as soon as I go work, and they were like, go get a job. Like I wasn't getting money from them like that. And so I think it was the entrepreneurship and seeing it, but it was also the parenting style that they had. But what's interesting, I always, my parents, because they came to Cuba, my mom didn't get an education, and my dad got an associate's, but they were like, you're going to college. Like, I don't care what you do, but you're going to college. And ended up getting a full-ride scholarship to play soccer. And so I said, after my first semester, I was first team All-American. Like I was like, you know, told I was going to be like the star of our division, And I go home and I go, I want to quit and start a business. And my dad was like, no. Like he was like he was hard against it. He goes, it is hard to be an entrepreneur because he knows what it takes. He's like you're too young, like you have too much to learn, like go get a job, learn the skills. And then later in life, you could start a business. Like, don't do that now. And he was like a hard no. And I'm a stubborn Cubalian. I'm Cuban Italian. So I'm like, I'm doing it. He goes, okay, one condition. I'm not giving you any more money ever. And he goes, and 2, so you're on your own. And 2, you have to stay in school. And you have to pay for your college, because he was, if I quit soccer, I was going to have to pay for college. So he's like, I'm not going to pay for it. He goes, you have to figure out how to do it yourself. And I did. And so now I'm 5 degrees later and a PhD, and I got that education because of my parents, but I did both at the same time. So yes and no.
I love that. I mean, you get the exposure from both sides of it, and, you know, it was able to pave your path, your way going forward. So I love that. But okay, let's jump into the main topic of today, right? Because we could just keep talking about all types of things. Right? But what exactly is a CRO, and why does every business need one?
Okay. So everybody thinks of a business, and what's the two most important things in a business to scale? Marketing and people.
Yeah.
Right. And you could argue there's other things like finances, cash flow, but in reality, especially when you look at the finances, the two biggest expenses is marketing and people for the most part, unless you have like a brick and mortar. And obviously there's those types of expenses. But so everybody thinks of marketing. They think, oh, I need a director of marketing or a marketing manager or a chief marketing officer. And I've done a lot of reflection the last 17 years, in particular, the last like 3 to 4 years, especially since I've been coaching since 2019. I don't know if this happens to you, Beez, but like when I coach, I start to reflect on myself because I'm giving them advice. I'm like, oh my God, that's why I was successful with that project. Or, oh, wait, now I'm thinking about this. Like, that's why I've been able to get to where I am. Like, and so I've done a lot of reflection since I started coaching on why am I successful? And I always came up with the fact that my trademark now that I have is marketing by modification. Like I always tried things differently. I would always try different things, but I also had a different mentality of thinking. I wasn't your average CMO. I would always think more than just marketing. Mm-hmm. And what I realized is the reason why so many businesses fail, and I see this now in my clients that I have, my corporate clients, is they have marketing and sales so separated. And the problem is under one roof, they're not looking at the whole customer journey. So when you look at a CMO is focused on getting leads in the door. Like that's their number. It's attention and leads. That's like their main focus. On the sales side, like a head of sales or a VP of sales, their job is to convert, get paying people, right? And what I realize is what makes me different and our agency so different than others. We're looking at the full scope. We're looking from the moment we say hello and our image from a PR perspective out in the world, all the way down to retention, not even stopping at getting, right? And I mean, one of my companies, it's a SaaS product, we increased their revenue 34% and 27% of it, guess what? Was keeping the clients, right? So a large part of it, because they had a huge bleed coming out, right? So 27% of the new business that came in was either renewals coming in or new business. And so what's interesting is that people don't understand that marketing doesn't just start at the beginning and stop once they come in the door. It has to continue. So that's what a CRO does. A CRO, a chief revenue officer, cares about revenue and all revenue coming in and revenue staying in, right? And so they're looking at the entire customer journey from beginning to end, how to keep people happy, customer service. They're looking at retention. They're looking at the products, right? Like, how are we maximizing products? How can we get new products in? Hey, we have these clients that are interested in this over here, but hey, you know what? They might be also interested in this. Let's upsell that, right? That's a CRO. A CMO is not thinking about any of that. CMO is just, how do I get leads? And that is all they care about, is the attention and leads. And that's the big difference. And to me, even small companies, they need a CRO. They don't need a CMO. Otherwise, you're missing the boat.
Because it becomes kind of fractional. You fracture the strategy and approach by separating it intentionally, by saying, hey, we're going to have sales separately here in this funnel. We'll have marketing here, and we'll have some meetings at the top sometimes, but all of these activities are separate. But bringing it together and seeing the whole picture, it just makes so much more sense. And would you say that as a CRO, that you're industry agnostic, of course? Like, it doesn't matter which industry?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in like every industry you can imagine. Like, name the industry and I'm working in it, from like cars to cleaning to waste to like B2B, B2C, like SaaS, sports, education, financial, name it, and we're doing it.
There we go. I love it. And what would be a good C-suite structure in your opinion, right? So obviously maybe a CEO, right? Then I would assume, say, a CRO. But what would the other C-suite executives look like in order to be the most effective together?
So I'm a big fan. So have you ever heard of Cameron Herold? He's incredible. He was a COO at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. You need to have him on your podcast. He's incredible. Okay. He opened my eyes because he wrote a book and it's called The Second Command. And I'm not really a big reader. I'll be honest. I was that kid in high school that got Cliff Notes. Like I never studied, by the way. So I graduated with a 4.2. I swear to God, my dad dropped me off at college and said, I'll see you in a week. And I looked at him, I go, why? He goes, you don't know how to study. You've never opened a book in your life. Like you're screwed for college. So like I never read. Okay. But I was interested because I had just hired a COO, Debbie. You've met Debbie a couple years ago. And I felt like I wasn't optimizing her in the right way. And so I'm like, so we were on a call with him. Sammy introduced us and I did a podcast with him. Go listen to my podcast, Think Millions. I think it was like four or five episodes ago. I launched it. And we were talking, he was like, the way he was explaining his COO, I'm like, that is not how, like, I thought COO operational, like just, CFO, COO operations, like, and his perspective of what a COO is so different. And his perspective is that like a COO is only good because their skills are so different, right? And that's one of the only positions where there's not a standard. Like you go CFO, okay, you want somebody that's good with numbers. With a COO, it's actually dependent on the CEO. And what you want is a COO that has different skills than the CEO. Right. And so you want somebody to complement your weaknesses. So if my strength is marketing, I don't want a COO that has a strength in marketing. Right. And so it's very, very interesting. His book, it just opened up my mind. So I'm a big fan that one of your first hires needs to be a second command. Doesn't necessarily need to be a COO. It could be a director of ops. It could be a souped up executive assistant. But you need a second in command. I think that's honestly one of the first 5 hires that you do, especially once you hit like, I would say $500,000 in gross revenue. I would definitely go for second command. And then eventually as you grow, you need, again, I think also too, like we say C-suite, depending on the level of your business. I think that until you're hitting like the 15, 20 million, you don't actually want too many C-suite. In fact, because people will give inflated titles because they want it to sound impressive, but you're like the CMO at a company that does like $1 million a year, right? It's like, no, instead be more of like a director of marketing. So you want to make sure not to just give C-suite titles. And I've done this in the past where I've been like, oh, you could be my chief creative officer. And like, they're really like barely a director. They're a graphic designer. You know what I mean? And, like, I wanted them to feel special, but it ends up biting you in the butt later. But so COO, CEO need to be hand in hand. I think eventually once you get to that like 10 million mark, you want a CFO. And it also depends how complex your billing is. Like for us, our billing is very complex as we're doing advertising this and that. So collection is really important. Eventually a CIO or a CTO.
For sure.
Yeah, is important once you get to that like 15, 20 million range. I would say those are like the most important like core, But then as you grow, I think a CSO, a chief strategy officer, is also really, really important. And to me, they're complementing the CRO, but they're a little different. To me, a CRO is over marketing and sales, and working with the CSO. The CSO is really focused on overall company strategy, and that includes really pulling together and being the person to pull the CFO, the COO, the CEO, and the CRO all together to build that strategy, right? So
I love that. I love that. So the first thing though, we're gonna have to change your tone, right? Because I don't want you talking about when you get to 10 million, blah blah blah, because we don't need to build business anymore. We're in business, so and acquire one that's already at that 10 million. We already talking about stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's important. I will never build a business from scratch ever again. It has to be.
After meeting you, I concur.
there. So that leads me to a question. Given your expertise, given all the things that you're doing, from the events, from the marketing, or CRO, because you also operate as like a fractional CRO as well, right?
Yeah.
So, given all those things that you're doing, if you had to choose one industry to acquire a business in order to scale whatever you're complement whatever you're doing, what industry would that be?
Marketing. I mean, for multiple reasons, because like I've actually been talking to Debbie about looking in the Jacksonville area for marketing companies, because to be honest, and it depends, right? Like you look at like my agency, there's only like 3 agencies in the nation that can buy my agency at the multiple right now, right?
Mm.
But when you go to most agencies are sitting between 300 and 750,000. They're very, very small. There's very few multi-million dollar marketing agencies. So for me, if I can acquire over the next 5 years, 1 a year, and build up, if they have, $750,000 a year gross revenue, that's probably 8 to 10 clients. And now I'm starting to build those clients, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm also on top of it getting their local SEO, because a lot of them have had these agencies for 15 years and their websites have been around for 15 years. They already have all the keywords that I want, right? And so I don't have to go and find leads. They're coming into them because they have a reputation. So I've actually thought about it, but to be honest, like I have so many leads coming in just in my agency, I haven't been able to like think about it, but I think that's probably my next move. What business would I want to acquire? You're going to laugh. I don't know why. I really want to own a laundromat. I don't know why. It just sounds like it'd be so much fun. Like getting all the change and counting all like.
It is. So I have a couple laundromats as well. And, I've kind of modernized it too. So I do know that we maybe leave, this is a factor we had to take into account, whether we're going to be leaving some money off on the table by going away from coins, right? So, we went away from coins in most of them, where we
it's all like digital now.
It's all digital. They're all tap to pay. We even created this it's like a membership program so that they can scan at the door to get in after hours as well. Right. And, they're paying. So now we have monthly recurring revenue coming in because they're actually on the membership program. We eliminated a lot of, staff that was needed. I mean, that wasn't the intent to cut staff, but we were just being more efficient. Right. So we do have staff for like wash and fold and delivery and such, but everything's running itself. Owning a lot would be awesome, to be honest. But I'll say this, though. I think most people who now their eyes have opened to acquiring businesses, that's what they all say is a laundromat. So because of that, it's a little bit more difficult now when dealing with the brokers and the sellers, because they know that there's a lot of demand for it. Right. So, but that I have one of my companies is all about helping people to acquire their business. So, I can help you anytime you're ready.
I know. My wife's already been like, we need to talk to Beez. It's on our long list.
Anytime you're ready. I got you.
Yeah. Okay. If anybody knows of a marketing agency in Jacksonville that wants to sell, let me know.
Yeah, for real. I'm not sure if they're in Jacksonville, but I think I have a bunch in Florida.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be in Jacksonville. I don't know. I guess it doesn't have to be. We could talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk because I got some on my deal board that might fit your criteria. But anyway. I think it's time that we got to pop what it really means to have a CRO in your business. What's the pros of having it? That way we could sum it up for everybody. The pros of having a CRO, the opportunities, why this is the perfect time to incorporate a CRO into your business, and the challenges. I don't want to call it problems, but the challenges that come in and that we need to know so that we can navigate around. What would you say?
I love this. So the pros is you have somebody who's in control of the whole customer journey. So they're seeing a client end to end or a customer. So that's a pro. The opportunity is being able to optimize that flow. And at the end of the day, we're in a relationship marketing world right now. People want to feel loved. They want to feel heard. They want transparency. They want to be with companies that have the same values as them. And you have to be consistent throughout the entire journey. So if you have 2 different people throughout the pipeline building rapport with the customers or clients, it's going to feel very disjointed, right? And so there's opportunity here to build better relationships with people in your pipeline. The problem is, especially as a company grows, it's a lot for one person. So it takes a very special person. It's much easier to hire a CMO than it is a CRO, 100%. So it could end up being like you have a CRO that's on top of a CMO and a head of sales, right? Which means you need more senior level people. So it could end up being more expensive. But I think that the problem of not doing it is that you have your CMO and your VP of sales just butting heads and pointing fingers and saying, well, we're down this month because of them. And they're pointing on the other side. No, it's them. Right. And I see this with clients now. I have one client that just called me a couple of days ago and was like, I think we're ready to move forward with, changing the structure. Right. Because they brought us in just to do the marketing side. And I said to them, like, we're going on our third year with them. And I said, I told you that 3 years ago. And he was like, I know, but we saw results in what you did on the marketing side. And I guess I see it, right? I fixed the marketing. And now that that's humming, now he's like, all right, now let's fix the overall, big picture. And talk about when you buy a business, you might have to do that. You might have to bring in a director of marketing, fix the marketing side first, and, fix them separately, and then potentially hire somebody, because a CRO is definitely more expensive than a CMO.
But do you believe it still could be effective in fractional capacity? Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
type of thing. Describe that a little bit.
100%. Yeah. So we come in fractionally. So I come in as a fractional CMO. I set the strategy. I meet with my team every morning. We go client by client. And then I have a team of many fractional CMOs and strategists underneath me that then execute the team to get it humming. There's no reason why I need to be in the nitty gritty. If I'm setting the strategy every morning, then I have my team like going, right? But I'm the one looking at the data, like deciphering what's wrong, figuring out what the problems are, figuring out, okay, here's the 3 things we have to do this week to move the needle. And then my team is the one executing it. And why it works is because, to hire me, it's like $450,000 minimum for salary plus equity plus bonus. Like, it's expensive to hire, a good CRO that has, benefits, right? Yeah. And so hiring as a fractional CMO, plus you get a team, you get designers and writers and everything that you need from a marketing perspective, developers. We have CRM experts, so we're experts in multiple different CRMs, from Go High Level to ClickFunnels to HubSpot, like name it, we're working in it. And so we're able to execute all of that for way cheaper than hiring even a CMO. And so interestingly enough, we have a company, they're doing about 35 million a year. They had a whole marketing team, and they got rid of the whole marketing team, including their head of marketing. Now they just have a marketing manager, and we're doing everything, and we're doing at least 20 times more work than their internal team was. Because we're just more efficient. Like we're good. We know what needles, like what levers we have to pull. So it's easier. And I just go boom, boom, pull that. Okay, that works. That doesn't work. And so we get results quicker than somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing and is trying to figure it out.
That makes sense. You hire the experts, right? Yeah. And this is, to me, again, this is more justification for acquiring a business rather than starting one from scratch, because you acquire a cash flowing business, right? You walk into it. It has enough revenue in it that you could say, all right, let's hire a true expert as a CRO to come on in and to, help us to get it to that next level, right? And anything else that's needed. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility when you're walking into cash flow in order to now say, okay, how can I take the business to that next level, right? So I love the description of the CRO. I think it's an extremely important role that people probably didn't even realize should exist, right? And it's just been traditionally, you have the sales separate from your marketing, and they kind of talk sometimes. But bringing it all together just makes more sense, especially when the way that you describe it is that entire customer journey, especially after they convert. Because a lot of businesses, it's cheaper to get an existing customer to spend more with you rather than to acquire a new customer often, right? Yeah. So I think that role is fundamental to increasing that revenue from your existing customers and continuing that relationship with your existing customers. Now, I want to talk more about the CRO stuff, but I have to talk a little bit. So just for time's sake, we got to talk a little bit about the events that damn. Alexa, I've never been happier at an event like I have been at yours. Meaning, because it's just been great people. It's not everyone is at high level. So it's like everyone's sharing their own, strategies and their own niche of what they're doing to creating wealth. Everyone is respectful. Everyone is positive energy. It's just so amazing. How the hell did you do that? What did you do? Talk a little bit about it.
It kind of happened by accident. Everything in my life is by accident. You see that? So when I've never run events before. And then when I started coaching, the pandemic happened and my students were like, we want to meet. Like, we know it's a pandemic, but let's figure out how to have a business event. I said, okay. So August 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I hosted my first event in New York, which was like one of the strictest states, by the way. I still to this day have no idea how. Like a week after we hosted our event, like New York shut everything down, by the way, like, and said no events bigger than 15 people or something, which was funny. And we were actually at one point, we were like, are we going to even be able to host this event? And hosted my first event. There was 62 people. I was basically the headliner. And then I had people from my team, throughout the 2 days talking. And after that, everybody was like, we want more. This is great. And so I kept hosting these events. But then what ended up happening was I started to bring my clients and my business partners as speakers. And so I'd bring my billionaire partner. I'd bring, celebrities. I'd bring like the president of Overstock and like all these people. And I just started posting about it on social. I didn't even do social until like, I don't know, I think it was like 2022 or something like that. Like I've only had social for the last couple of years. And because to be honest, I hate myself on video and I don't like seeing the spotlight. I'm like the back end dork. So it was a lot for me to go on social, but I ended up just like posting after the fact, like, oh, look, it was great interviewing so-and-so. And I had people start to write me and be like, hey, how can I come to your next event? I'm like, well, you're not a client, but I guess you can. So I started to open it up and I started to get wait lists for our events. And then I started to get people who wanted to speak at my events. And I was like, what the heck? This is weird. So then my business partner ended up getting wind of what we were doing. And he was like, hey, why don't you host your next event at my, $20+ million house in Palm Desert? And I was like, that sounds amazing, but I'm going to have to like increase the price for something like that, So I ended up kind of going out and I basically posted like one post and we sold that out very quickly and ended up having like 68 people. I think it was a final number. And the people that all signed up because it was higher ticket were all 8, 9, 10 figures. Yeah. That was the biggest room. We had $21 billion in that room. That was still to date the biggest room I've ever had. And it just was a next level event. Like that was like, it was a $25,000 ticket. So it was like, high end, like from the food to, it was very high end. So then I said, okay, hosting that high end of an event is a little like too much to do that. So how can I come up with a medium of us hanging out in, each other's homes and hosting these events and, having the same thought process of everybody's successful in the room. There's no speaker attendee model. Like for the most part, everybody pays to get in the room and it's more of a mastermind feeling. And that was the first event that you went to that we met that I hosted to see like how I can transition the event. And we're still tweaking because even like the last event we had, which was great, I'm still tweaking it and, getting different, I'm still tweaking it and figuring it out as we go, but it just kind of has evolved and it's just, it's been fun, but I think the biggest thing is who's in the room, and I've been really careful of who I place in the room and making sure it's the right people, and that's made all the difference.
Definitely. And that's key. And that's what I love about you too, is that you're curating who's in the room. Most people is like, hey, whoever's going to pay, just let them come and pay and collect the money. But no, you're like, no, I want the right people in there. I want the right atmosphere for everyone's benefit. And listen, audience, if you guys are hearing this, you definitely need to tap in with what Dr. Alexa's doing. Tell everybody the name of the event series as well.
Yeah, so it's called the Wealth Mastery Summit. So if you go to wealthmastery.events, that's where you can find our next event, which is coming up.
There we go. So whenever you guys are watching this or listening to this on the podcast platforms, still go to that site. There'll be another event coming because these just consistently come and they're all so amazing. I promise you that. You have my my vote as the best event that I've ever been to be honest. I mean, it's just been amazing. So keep going with that, Dr. Alexa. I love what you're doing.
Thank
I love
you.
that you're bringing together. It's awesome. So as we wrap up now, tell everybody what's the best place to connect with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, go to the website for Wealth Mastery Summit, but how best should everybody get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on all social media. If you just go to alexadagostino.com, you can get access to me on all social media or Instagram too. You can go there and find me on all the other social media at Dr. Alexa D'Agostino.
There we go. So we'll make sure we put all of that in the notes below so that everybody can get to you, connect with you, get your fractional CRO services, hop on to Wealth Mastery Summit if they're the right fit. And just connect with an amazing person. Alexa, thank you so much for an amazing conversation. Oh no, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to many, many more conversations. We'll have you back on so we can go a little bit deeper into. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I need your services in one particular business. So I think the next conversation that we have on here is going to be me reviewing how amazing it's been, because I know it's going to be amazing with that.
Awesome.
As well.
Let's do it.
Be cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alexa. Keep doing what you do and keep impacting so many lives. We didn't get to talk about what you've been doing in terms of the charitable aspect of your events, but man, it changed my life because I didn't realize how prevalent that was in the U.S. Right.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about, it's a long story, but it has to do with sex trafficking, especially child sex trafficking. And Alexa, she's really putting a dent in ensuring that people are aware of what's going on. Because I'm the first one to say that I didn't realize how crazy it was, and not only doing that, but actually doing something to change it. Raising money, connecting with the right people like Marisol and, everybody. What's the sister's name again?
Sister Irene.
Sister Irene. She's amazing. And, those people who are actively doing things to combat that travesty that is going on in the world. And you're playing a crucial part for that. So again, thank you for it and keep doing amazing things.
Thanks.
Right. Awesome. Well, everybody, y'all already know what to do. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, just make sure you share it with everybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you already have liked and subscribed and comment on this video. And make sure you turn on that notification bell. Click that notification bell so that you don't miss conversations like this with amazing people like Dr. Alexa D'Agostino. All right, so I'll see y'all on the next episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed. And we'll keep buying businesses. Let's go.